here with my good friend Marcel.
Is what I'd say if he was here.
Unfortunately, today he has gone to Merlefest, doing some research in the bluegrass genre, even more research than he usually does. So this week, I have a very special guest host, my main man, my number one confidant, my best friend, Miles Harris.
Hey, yo! Good to be here, man.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one. Every time these things are so ill-structured.
And now I have to ask, before we move on, now is Merlefest, do you know, is that like Merle Travis?
I have no idea. Or is it just called
Merlefest? I was just curious. I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Let's do some research.
Yeah, my guitar brain just started going crazy. I'm like, Merle Travis? That's cool. I don't know. I just love hearing about all that stuff. I didn't even know where he was. Oh, well.
Merlefest is an annual traditional plus music festival held in Wilkesboro, North Carolina, on the campus of Wilkes, or how do you say that? Wilkes Community College. Held in the last week of April. That's right now. Oh, yeah. Cool. Founded by Doc Watson. So I'm sure Marcel's having a good time listening to some traditional American music, but my friend Miles and I are just gonna shoot the breeze and talk about some guitar stuff. If before we get into that, is there anything you've watched on YouTube recently that's interesting to you?
Like music related or like anything?
No, specifically not music related.
Oh, specifically not music related. It's always the YouTube reservoir becomes the giant vortex in the mind.
Oh yeah.
I do. It's not recent, but if I'm being honest, because I feel like everyone has like the YouTube guilty pleasures. I got a few playlists, and I've got the ones that, it's like you're having a bad day, you go through them, and there's a succession of like 4 or 5 videos that I have watched for years at this point, every now and again, that I just watch. And now it's like I know the order. It's like Busta Rhymes over the Wii Shop channel music and like the Heartbreaking Dog monologue. There's like a little dog and they just put sad music over it, and it's just looking at the camera. It just keeps talking, and it looks like it's just desperately telling you something important with the sad music. And it's like, so I don't know. I can't think of what recently, but I'll tell you that my guilty YouTube pleasures, man, those keep me going. That little list every now and again keeps me going. What about you, man?
Have you heard of Drew Gooden?
Mm-mm.
He was famous for that one particular vine, Road Work Ahead. Well, I sure hope it does. But he's great.
Yeah.
Like he's an ex-Viner, reviews a lot of like what Viners are doing now and just Instagram accounts and stuff like that. He's pretty funny. I enjoy watching Drew Gooden.
Drew Gooden.
Yeah, check him out.
That is interesting because I always thought the whole Vine thing is so fascinating. Like I love learning anything about that or the people that were involved in that stuff because it's so quick. And then they all spread out.
Yeah. And like the biggest YouTubers now are ex-Viners, the Paul brothers.
Yep. It's crazy. It's totally crazy. Yeah, I feel like everything around Vine in its aftermath is really fascinating. Because just like its platform, it was so short-lived. It was so short. I feel like it's just sort of also hilarious that Vine itself didn't last very long. Like the videos. It's like the videos are short and Vine was around for a short amount of time too. I don't know.
Yeah.
Correlation? Perhaps. Maybe not. I don't know.
So let's get into the meat of what we're going to talk about. A couple weeks ago, we did an episode on technique and a little bit about anime, but we won't talk about that today. I wanted to just ask you, like, what your overall approach is to your technique, and like, what do you do that you think is different from everybody else?
Cool, and this is good. We've talked about this a little bit, but definitely, My approach to technique has been a long journey, and I've changed it many times because I was a self-taught guitar player. I had a teacher for a little bit, but he didn't teach me about technique. He just tried to help me learn songs and stuff. And at an early age, and it's funny, I heard John Petrucci say something similar, that I thought when I started that if you hammered on and pulled off, you were cheating. And I got that idea in my mind. Like, it really stuck. Like, I didn't want to cheat. So I had to learn how to pick everything, which anyone that's ever picked up a guitar and has had no instruction is like, all right, I'm to pick everything, realizes that very quickly becomes a problem. It's like, wow, this is a lot more difficult than I thought.
If I heard that from somebody I respected, that would have been very dangerous to me at the beginning stages of my guitar playing.
Those things will they stick with you.
Everything is a darn hammer on or pull off for me.
But see, now I'm having to work backwards. See, I'm gonna get to that. Now I'm having to learn how to do that stuff more. But when I started, I got this crazy idea in my head that, you cannot hammer off and pull off, or it would be best if you learn to pick everything. And then eventually, the more players I started listening to, like, they really encompassed that mindset, like Al Di Meola, and even someone like Joe Bonamassa. And then even the piano players I like Art Tatum and Oscar Peterson, have a very percussive, bullet-like style at times. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. So I feel like the first many years of me practicing was just trying to figure out alternate picking and making it work for me, which took a long time because it's not. And now I have this huge smorgasbord of ideas that's come from other people. So pretty much everything I do is based around a hybrid of two-way pick slanting and economy picking. And it took me a long time to develop it because, as everyone knows, when you pick into the guitar strings, you're in the strings. And that's the biggest thing. It's when you get stuck, you're in a line and it's I need to be going in a different direction. And I've been spending the past few years figuring out how to get rid of that problem because, as a lot of us, I don't want to think when I play. I just want to be able to play and go in any direction. And especially in the age we live in, it's we're able to hear some of these guitar players that have achieved that, this fluidity of just, they're obviously not bound by direction. They're just playing what's in their head. And obviously my biggest influence right now is Alan Holdsworth. And that is very appealing to me. The ability to just think of a line or think of music and not really think as much about whether it's possible, but just knowing you can find a way to do it. But it's the biggest thing for me in my technique, that learning was economy picking, which I know is big for you too. That changed everything because then suddenly it's everything is about energy and how much energy you're putting out, and alternate picking is really exhausting. And but if you can learn the fundamentals of alternate picking and then put economy picking in there, then it's you get a break. And every time you can add a little rest, it's suddenly something that would have been exhausting can become more fluid in the end. And I think that is really cool. And I guess I could even show some examples really quick. But for example, just straight up, some people, if I were just go through a major scale, you could economy pick it or you could alternate pick it. And the other thing too is with these techniques is I feel they sound different. And it's different techniques. You could play the same lick and try to find a few different ways to phrase it. And it's you'll end up finding one you like or just a difference. And that's where I've gotten to recently, which is the more tools you have at your disposal. Now that I can alternate pick and economy pick and sort of understand how to change my pick slant, it's suddenly you have options. And that's where I realize guitar technique is expanding because I feel in the past people just had one technique, but now it's we're developing some common language and we're learning okay, there's different angles to hold the pick at or different ways to do motion. And so I'm just obsessed with finding all those ways and combining them. And
if you feel like playing, this is a very playing and encouraged podcast. So.
Perfect. Well, yeah. Let me show something. So even Soundwaves, for example, if you were to alternate pick, that has a sound, but if I economy pick it, it sounds more fluid and less machine gunning. And that right there is since I spent so much time just machine gunning it, for lack of a better word, it's now I'm trying to find that middle ground with pull-offs and hammer-ons to where it sounds musical. Because I'm realizing in phrases even not played on the guitar, I would challenge guitar players to try to figure out a phrase that's in your head or that you've been listening to that's not on guitar. And I guarantee you'll know where pull-offs should go or like where accents should go, where you should or shouldn't be picking. It's like you hear it. Because I started learning these classical songs and I'm like, I can hear where the turnarounds are and I can hear where I should be pulling off or doing stuff because it sounds natural with the music.
Mm-hmm.
And even though this is, now I'm sort of like, even though this is about technique, it's not. You know, it's like at the end of the day, we want to be musical. And now I'm trying to reshape my mind to just not think about technique for technique's sake, but to think about like, what is the music asking for? Because there's this great Hilary Hahn video where she's talking about, like, I break down things that sound technical and I try to make them not sound technical. Like, I'll work on it until it sounds just natural. And that really struck a chord with me because it's hard sometimes to make technical sound. Or you listen to a player and then they do the passage, like the harder passage, and it sounds like it, you know. Or I hate it when it sounds like there's a shift. Mm-hmm. You know, like, oh, they got ready for the hard part and they did the hard part and now it's done. It's like, you know, you just want it. People shouldn't even notice you played the hard part, you know? Mm-hmm. And that's where I'm at. It's trying to get so good with your technique to where you're just, things don't sound technical anymore.
Quick tangent time. What do you think are some of the elements that make that sort of shift happen between something that sounds musical and something that sounds technical? Do you think it has to do with articulation, dynamics?
Ooh, that's a great question. And you know what's funny is I've really been trying to think about that. And I think it's a hard thing to get to the heart of because, and I would encourage anyone to do this, is like take a song you know or that you like that's maybe a little more difficult and look up as many versions as you can. And odds are you'll find one or two that are really good. And you'll find the rest that are just fine. And it's like, why are these versions that have, and they could even be perfect. Like there could be no mistakes, but it could not be like, you could not be feeling it. And I think that's fascinating and blows my mind. And I think it comes down to, it's like a split between like technique and being aware of like what I was saying, like what technique makes things sound the most musical. Because there have been times where it's like, I could pick everything, but I shouldn't, you know? It's like, and I think it's making those types of distinctions, like not just doing things the one way you do it, but what way does the music call for it? And when people do what the music calls for, you always notice, you know, and you can hear when someone's being themselves, just no matter where they are, to the point of where it even sounds juxtaposed. And that's where I feel like you get the weird stuff, is when they're just like, all right, here's the hard part. But someone that's thinking of it all as like the piece of music, I feel like it's different. And that's to where like, and maybe, I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel like certain things like that, it almost becomes more of a mental game. Because if you're thinking about trying to make it musical and approaching it from that standpoint, I feel like everything follows through. But if you get too analytical with it, you can lose your way a little bit, maybe. But I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think I don't know enough, but like, as far as I'm concerned, like I'm a music scientist. I affectionately given myself the term sonic scientist. And I want to figure out like the actual differences in like the waveforms and like the placement of notes in space and the different dynamics. And like there are scientific ways you can measure that, like with spectrum analyzers and dB and VU meters, and just looking at the waveform. Like that's what I want to get to the heart of. I want to be able to look at a piece of music through a bunch of visual analyzers and actually see what's happening, so I can see where those differences lie, and essentially have a greater understanding of the reasoning behind why two things are different. But as of now, I have like very little knowledge on it. But yeah, it's definitely something I'm interested in, because to me, music is supposed to convey or evoke a feeling or emotion.
Definitely.
But it's also a very scientific process to me as well. And I use the term scientific real loosely. But there's a lot of analysis that can be done that I'm not sure if it's being done right now. But it would be cool to look at, especially like with the advent of electronic music and the research that's gone into sound design and sound creation. I would like to apply some of those principles to older acoustic music.
Mm-hmm. And I think you bring up a great point, and I feel very similarly about music, to where it fits in this weird middle ground between like something scientific, especially the more you get into electric type music. It's like it's I think why it's so appealing to human beings is that it's a fusion of these worlds that's just never existed until now. And I think we are getting to the point where we can spectrum analyze things and see the difference. Like, I think that stuff is very valid. And it's just like, I like that idea of science is there to explain why. Even in something like music, it's like there are things that can be explained or tested, you know. Mm-hmm. And I think we're definitely heading towards that direction, to be finding out even more nuanced things about the differences between music we like and don't like, or what makes music special, you know. And that's where I feel like someone like me and you, I know we both think about that a lot. Like it, and I'm sure every musician does. It's at the end of the day, what makes music listenable or special, or what makes it worth listening to at all, or what makes me like the stuff I like. Like, that is our greatest challenge, is figuring out whatever that is. And I love it.
Absolutely, buddy. So back onto the subject of technique. What's something like recent that you've discovered that's just blown your mind?
Ooh, well, the recent thing, and like I guess I sort of was running through the whole technique thing, but for me, the biggest thing now has been the idea that technique is lots of techniques. Like, my whole technique is a combination of like so much guitar history, because I just want to embody guitar history. So like, for example, I had to decide, all right, I want to play like Al Di Meola. So how am I going to be able to do that? I have to alternate pick. All right, done. You know, it's like, I want to be able to play like country stuff. So it's like, all right, what am I going to do there? And I could get a thumb pick, and I tried that and I didn't like it. And I'm stubborn, and I want to do as many things in one system as possible. So it's like, I learned how to Travis pick with a pick. And I use my last three fingers and my pinky, all these last three digits to finger pick, which is sort of unusual, but it's like, you can train them to do it. And that's the thing. It's like, I've been pushing myself to do things like that, to where it's like, common knowledge would say, get a thumb pick or just use your thumb and use these fingers that work better. But it's like, if you try enough, you can develop it. And so now what that means is I could be playing anything, and then I could break into a country thing, and I don't have to change anything. And that is what's huge for me, is being able to change nothing. Or like, and it's like, the more I learn about like sweeping and economy picking, but like advancing it to like a Alan Holdsworth or like Frank Gambale level, to where my biggest thing, I guess, that's revolutionized picking is only changing direction when I have to. And that sounds crazy, but it's like, I started taking some of these more complicated lines and things I was trying to do, and I was realizing that I was like, if I just switched pick angle when I absolutely have to, it just saved so much energy, and it kept it all inside generally, instead of me jumping over strings like I was trying to do. And it's like, these are some of the things, like jumping over strings or around strings. This is like our biggest obstacles as guitar players. It's just like getting around the strings. And when you can start to get something like this into your playing, what happens is, I don't know, it's just like you can move in any direction, and suddenly, instead of feeling like you have this weird, you're like jerking to turn around, it's really smooth. And that for me has been big, is just trying to keep everything inside instead of hopping over strings. Like, almost never try to hop over strings. Always keep it streamlined and fluid as possible. Because I just think there's really something, that and holding my fingers close to the fretboard as possible, which again is like common, like, yeah, duh, but also people don't do it. Or like, if you really push yourself to keep your fingers close, you know, you can get closer and closer.
To me, I feel like that's a very do as I say, not as I do type of thing. Like, yeah. All teachers say, keep your fingers as close to the fretboard as possible. Yet they got the whole flying pinky thing going on.
Yep.
Yeah, like small things like that should make sense, or just like, for me, are very difficult to just click.
Oh yeah, it's like and I feel like that's the biggest thing. At the end of the day, the more revelations I come to, they're almost all basic. It feels basic, like, wow, this is a basic thing that I should have noticed. but at the same time, it's everything and no one thinks about it. But it's like the fundamental of this stuff. And for me, lately, I just been spending the past few years just trying to examine all the guitar players in history that I like and take what I want. And that's the best part is like there are proven cases of these people playing like this and that it works, you know, and you can't argue with it. So for me, when I look at Alan Holdsworth and I see all the things you can do, it's like I can't argue with that. I don't get why everyone's not basing what they're doing around like what that guy's doing because it's like that guy's doing anything he wants. And I think the fingers thing, though, is huge, close to the fretboard, because I keep pushing myself to get closer. And the closer I get to that fretboard, it feels better when you play and you don't think about it because your hands are comfortable and they're close. And it's like the thoughts feel faster almost. I don't know if you've experienced that, but I have. The more I push myself to do that, like the thoughts feel more immediate to the fretboard instead of like there's this lag of like the finger, you know, having to fall down. Because I used to very much be flying fingers, you know, fingers flying up and down, pinky out, you know, British style.
I found myself like going like I always thought like my fingers were pretty close to the fretboard and like that wasn't something I needed to work on. But I mean, it's something everybody should work on. But I've been going like more and more flying fingers recently for some reason. I don't know. So maybe it's good that you brought this up because that's the reminder I needed to chiggity check myself before I riggedy wreck myself.
Yep. Yeah, man. Fingers close to the fretboard. I feel like just like fingers close to the fretboard and learning to do different pick slants have been just huge things. And that's, I've only been talking about it a bit, and obviously on a podcast, it's hard to like show that, but like, I'll give a quick rundown for everyone that doesn't know, like pick slants. Like most people are downward pick slanters, and that's where, you know, if you were to look at your hand, the point of your pick is facing up sort of towards your face, you know, and if you're a downward pick slanter, the point of your pick is pointing towards the floor. And so what that means is when you're either one of those pick slanters, if you're a downward pick slanter, when you pick down, you're buried in the strings. And when you pick up, you're free from the strings, and vice versa. So what that means is if you can learn to do both, then you can do anything. And it's in that the biggest thing for technique too is it took me a long time to realize the motion for alternate picking. That's what I should have said first. Like I used to do all sorts of weird arm stuff, and different people, some people play with their arm, you know, locked. Some people anchor their palm to like the bridge. And like for me, the other biggest thing has been learning to anchor my pinky. Like I used to think it's weird that people anchored their pinky, but now I don't, because it's like you have this constant spatial awareness that never moves. And the palm of your hand as the anchor, for me, it didn't work because once I got to the top strings, I felt like I had to move too much. But with this, it feels grounded. It's just like...
It's funny you bring up pinky anchoring because that's something me and Marcel were discussing, and he is on the complete opposite.
Oh, yeah, he's
the spectrum.
Okay.
Like very against pinky anchoring.
That guy does pick. He has a very free wrist. And that blows my mind. Someone like him, you look at him and his wrist, he just moves where he needs to move. And I tried playing like that for a long time. And I could sort of do it. But for me, it didn't work. And that's where we get to the interesting part, too. Is like the pinky anchoring, I found it works perfectly for me. But then we get Marcel. He's doing the total opposite to great efficiency. So it's like, it's great. But,
I'm the same way. Like I don't anchor my pinky. I'm a closed-fisted picker.
Okay. Very interesting. See, and I used to be that way. That's the craziest part. Is like my technique has changed. It's weird to think I've probably been to where both of you are in different ways. But it's just very interesting, and I'd encourage anyone that is interested in technique to really start looking into it for yourself, because that was the biggest thing. Is I feel like technique is a journey, and once you get to a point where you're like, all right, I'm playing seriously, I want to be able to play this music I can't play, you have to think about like what techniques let you play that. Because for me, it's like I don't practice tapping, for example, much, because the music I play at the moment doesn't call for it. But if I did, or if I was playing like Andy McKee stuff, I should be practicing that all the time, you know. So it's like, it's just depending on what you need. And I guess that is the biggest thing for me and anyone. I encourage you, just practice what you need, not what you think you're supposed to be practicing. Like, what do you want to play? Practice that.
That's good advice, man. Like, just audit your technique.
Like, definitely.
take a look at where you are, like, and really like dig deep and see if there are any inefficiencies, and if there are, address them. And so it's hard to do that on your own sometimes.
Mhm.
So if you're feeling like you're having trouble, I would definitely like look up a teacher in your area or contact Marcel or I, and we'll give you a one-off lesson, like helping audit your technique for you.
Because that is definitely huge. And like, I think human beings are very quick to get set in our ways, but technique is something that can be learned and can be changed. And I'm living proof of it because I've changed my technique at least 5 times. Like, and when I say that, I mean, like, I abandoned what I was doing before because it was so bad compared to what I had just learned. And I had to start over and be okay with that. Like, I was gigging whilst trying to change my entire technique, and it's like, it was scary, but it was worth it. And for anyone, and I feel like some people are going to have this moment at some point in their life, like I did, where it's like, all right, you have a crossroads. Do I refine or relearn my technique, or just keep going with what I have? And a lot of people just keep running with it. But I would encourage anybody to at least try to change things you don't like about your playing, because it's more possible than you think, I think. And that's the biggest thing about playing in general is, like, I think guitar playing in music in general, it's just more possible than ever now. And there's so much to learn from, and people have like paved the way for us to just learn how to play anything we want. That's what it feels like. Like, it feels like cheating at this point, because there's so much information just within the music alone, not even mentioning videos, like blah, 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 gone. But I don't know. I just think technique, I'm glad that we talked about this a lot, because I feel like it's an important thing to think about in its function in your personal playing, and like, how it's serving you. Because if your technique's not serving you well, then it's like you got a problem and you're never going to be happy. Because I was there. I was not happy. I used to play and be unhappy every time I played because my technique wasn't proper for the music I was playing. It's like, that makes sense.
Yeah, man, I get it. Real good points, real good insight. How about we move on to just talking about just shooting the breeze on some cool voicings, trade back and forth.
Yes, let's do that. Definitely. Here, you go first. Show
All
me
right.
some cool stuff.
You guys can't see this, but I'm angling the camera down so Miles can see my hand. I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I showed him this voicing right before we started. It's kind of a D Lydian voicing. And the way I came up with it, I was at this jam session. We were playing just free music, and I heard Lydian tonality a little bit, and I went for the basic major 7 grab, starting on the A string, 5, 7, 6, 7, and then that B string note, I moved it up a whole step, which gives you G sharp, the sharp 11. So what you're getting is root, 5th, major 7, sharp 11. And you can do cool moves around it. I'll try to include tab for that little thing I played, but
And it's got so much character, that like voicing. I really like it. Like, it really spices up whatever you're doing a lot. Because it feels very definite.
Like I think of the sharp 11 as tonic, like on a 1 chord. Like, you're in the key of D major. I don't think of G sharp unless I'm going, or G natural unless I'm going directly to F sharp. Or sometimes I'll play a line like, and just go up to that sharp 11 from the 4th scale degree. So that Lydian sound to me is like consonant over a 1 chord. Like, it's my go-to sound over 1 in any given key. Your turn.
one really cool chord I've been using is and I think you can use it. You can use it, I think, instead of a G major 7. See, watch, I won't even know, but it's it sounds like that, and it's also, and it's just like the first. It's the on the low E string. It's the 3rd fret for the first 2 notes, and then it's the 2nd fret for the next 2, and then the last 2 are open. And that voicing, and that's I've been trying to find, like, I would call them like guitar particular voicings like that, to where it's like, you know, it has a very unique sound on the guitar, and it only really happens there unless you have a capo. And when you can fit that into a composition or find these, like, I've been trying to find more chord, and I think I found a cool A thing the other day. I can't even remember it, see? But I've been trying to find cool things like that, just open voicing chords. Because then whenever you can slip it in, because now it just sounds magical. I don't know. It's just a very cool sound that I've been really into. Just the particular beating of those notes.
I just found a way to move that voicing around.
Ooh! Oh yeah, see, yeah, you can bar it.
The way I'm doing that is I'm starting on the 9th fret of the low E string, 9-9 with my 3rd finger and pinky. Then I'm hitting 7-7 on D and G with my 2nd finger, and then my 1st finger is hitting 5 and 5. So I had it.
Man, that's really... You listeners have no idea how impressed I am that Lyman was just able to start moving that around.
You told me it was guitar particular, and I said, challenge accepted.
Oh, man. Way to show me. But yeah, it's a very cool... any voicing of and obviously even those first 4 notes, because it's, you know, pretty much like a major 7 type thing almost. I don't know. It's very interesting. It has a very deep sound, and like voicings on the bottom 3 or 4 strings. I've been trying to find more of those because they sound very. It's amazing how deep you can make the guitar sound without drop tuning it if you voice things right, and that's something that's been fascinating me too. You know, like voicings like those sound so dark. You know, it's like, who would have thought like a guitar in E should sound that dark? But if you compose things right, like, you can make it sound heavy.
Mm-hmm. I've got a guitar specific, well, not guitar specific, but a voicing that works really well on the guitar. And I challenge any of you guys to try to move this one around. It starts out with an open E, and then 7th fret on the A string, 6th fret on the D string, 5th fret on the G string, and then 3rd fret on the B and high E. So you get... And that's a E altered dominant sound.
That's nice.
E7 sharp 9 sharp 5.
Yeah, that's a nice voicing. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of a stretch to it, but it's not too bad. I have relatively small hands, and I can do it. So if you have, you know, normal man-sized hands, you should be able to play this voicing.
Most definitely. It sounds really good. That's a really good way to voice that chord.
Yeah, you got any other voicings?
I do. Actually, I've been the one we were talking about this a bit the other day, but I've been finding a lot of different ways with the split voicing. I just keep moving notes because this chord is my favorite chord, hands down. Just the split voicing, because you can just like drop a note or 2 notes, add a note, And it's like within this just one sector, there's so many colors that you can just access or choose how to make that chord feel. And I really enjoy that, especially like that one, you know. It's just very it's just I've been trying to find more ways to add character to notes. And like Eric Johnson talks a lot about finding chords this way, to where you're just sort of like, you know, changing one note at a time. And I like that approach a lot for finding these really just sweet little voicings.
That one is beautiful. Can you break that down?
Oh, that one, this last one? Yeah, so we got our root right here on the, on the 7th fret on the low E, and then also 7th fret on the D. And now that would be the 5th fret, 4th fret, and you're barring that top string, the top 2 with your top finger, and then there you have it. And you have to like turn your arm in pretty hard to get it, especially that top note. But if you can get it, it's very pretty.
And for the listeners at home, he is using his thumb to hit that low note.
Oh yeah, and that's something we didn't talk about much in the technique thing too. Is I use my thumb a lot. Some people do, some people don't. But for me, it's like my chord voicings and the way I voice them has definitely, maybe even to a detriment, revolved around my thumb. So I always think in terms of like whatever my thumb's on, and then the rest of my fingers can do whatever they want to like go against that. And I know a lot of that probably has to do with me just playing alone in my room a lot. But it's fun to do that for sure.
That chord reminded me of a certain type of dominant chord that I really like. It's this sound.
Ooh.
It would this would be C7 flat 9 with the natural 13. And the context I would use it in is like 2/5 in the key of F. Like you got G minor 9. How would I voice an F major 7? That sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And because it comes out of like sort of the diminished form,
you can move it like that. Oh my gosh. Oh, see, man, for the people at home, Lyman's just giving me free chords and licks right now. That's all that's happening. Is I'm just getting free lessons.
I'm getting my fair share of free stuff as well, man.
That's definitely a good voicing. Yeah, you can really move that one around.
I use that voicing all the time when I'm writing my lo-fi stuff. Like, it's a like if you're practicing diminished chords like that come out of the diminished scale, like that's one of my favorites. If you don't know it, learn it and learn how to apply it. You got anything else?
No, I mean I just keep trying. Just chords like that too. Like I really like that chord, and then adding a bass to it. I don't know what that is, but and obviously this is also something that's very movable, and it just has a really nice sort of ambiguous sound to where I feel like it can work in a lot of different places or be moved around. I've been trying to find more voicings like that are semi-ambiguous.
I think of that as like a D major 9, like
yeah, definitely
without the third.
Yeah, And then it's cool because that voicing, I like voicings like this because then you have all your other fingers are free and you can just add notes. And it's all your choice, what notes you do or don't add. And I really like that. I call them like bang for the buck voicings like that, to where it's like you have a voicing and then you also have choices within that voicing that are easy to choose, which I enjoy.
Yeah, that reminded me of a chord that I've heard called the chameleon chord. It's this voicing, which is starting on the D string, 8, 5, 6, 5.
Oh yeah. Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah.
I'm just gonna experiment with different bass notes, seeing what I can grab.
Ooh, I sort of like that one.
Let's see what we can name this one. D flat. It's got a major 6, a major 7, a major 3rd, and a sharp 5. D flat, major 7, sharp 5.
I like that sharp 5 in there.
It'd
That's
be
really
very
interesting.
hard for me
It'd
to
be hard.
voice this in like an actual like gigging setting. It's a very hard chord to grab. What if I try putting the D flat lower? Nope, I can't.
And the
grab
only
that.
other thing I found is that, again, you can only generally do it really high up, and it's if you take like they're almost all a half step apart. It's just 2 of them are a half step apart, and then one's just like a whole step away from it. So you get that, and that I want to find more uses for that. Those more tense, like really tense upper string voicings that have quite intense, like really unique beating that's very pointed. Yeah. I feel like those, man, throw some chorus on that. You're in business.
All right. Well, interesting stuff for sure. I've got a lot to work on. I'm excited to dive into that. We want to get into our recurring segments, but I've got a new one I want to try out. This is a game called Overrated, Underrated. Pretty self-explanatory. So I've got one for Miles. Overrated or underrated bar chords?
Ooh. Well, see, I'm of the mindset. Now I'm gonna make enemies too. I think bar chords are overrated, and I'll show you why. Here's a bar chord, and then here's a bar chord with a little extra. When you add, I feel like bar chords are good, but you can almost always find something a little better because I feel like the bar chord's been explored a lot. And it's like if you want a bar chord, usually if I want a bar chord, what I really want is pretty much an octave that's just strong. And then I just want that to give it a little more backbone,
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like bar chords are good, but it's like I literally never use bar chords. Like I cannot think of, or at least like bar chords in the sense of the most basic bar chord, But I don't know. I think bar chords in their most basic sense can be useful, but I think you can almost always find a slightly cooler way to use them, except for in like certain musics, obviously.
I think bar chords are absolutely overrated, and I'll tell you why.
Ooh, yes, lay it on me.
There's too much work. Too much work going on, man. You could play, like when I reach for a bar chord, I'm usually just trying to reach for a triad. That's what I'm going for. Like I see A or B flat, like, okay, I can play a B flat bar chord. Or I can work a whole lot less and play this chord and get nearly the same effect.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, just omitting notes, you put less strain on your hand. You're working less. You're moving around less. And you can play. Mm-hmm. So if you're if you're using bar chords all the time, I think you might be working too much.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's the other thing is that you bring up a good point. It's like doing bar chords nonstop is not fun. I don't know how the punk bands do it. Mad respect. Keep going out there thrashing and stuff. But man, like, yeah, I definitely think it's always good to find other things to do within a bar chord context. But dang, that was a good one.
Yeah.
Well, I got one for you, good sir.
Uh-oh.
Are you? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Now, lay it on me. What do you think, overrated, underrated, the minor 4?
Completely underrated. It is my favorite sound in all of music, like top 3 favorite sounds.
I'm so glad you said that.
To me, the minor 4 is just a sort of like an altered dominant 7 sus4 sound. So like in the key of G, I'm gonna play a bar chord just because I said they're overrated. Going to C minor. To me, that's just like D sus7 flat 9. But the reason I like that sound so much is just because of the voice leading.
Definitely. I think it's one of the most natural resolutions in music there are. Those feelings, like, it's so funny because you can make the most complex, amazing song, but then you can make something simple and you put that minor 4 in the right spot and it gets anyone. You have to have a heart of stone to be like, nah, that minor 4 didn't get me. Not even a little. It's like, yeah, it did. It got us all. It got us all. But I'm with you. I feel
that was a real good one. And explain your answer.
Oh, I'm with you, man. I feel like the minor 4, I feel like it only got overused a few times in music, but we're at points where it's like a good minor 4. You can't argue with it. You just can't. You hear it, and then it's like, oh, man, I can't say nothing. I can't say nothing, you know? I don't know. I'm trying to... I don't know. You just... when you... especially like a classic type of thing, you know? It's like, what? Who's going to argue with that? Not me. I just won't.
This is a tough one because, like, I like to be scientific and logical with my reasoning. I have no logic behind this one, or very little. I just love the way it sounds.
Exactly. And I'm glad you said that because I feel it's the same way. And that's what the minor 4 is. The minor 4 is a gut feeling, man. You just feel it. It's like, yep. And it's... I don't know. There we go.
Well, I've got another one for you. Johann Sebastian Bach.
Ooh. Oh no. I'm going to make enemies. Well, it's hard because I feel like Bach, it's because it's like, I mean, you sound like a jerk if you call Bach overrated, but it's like, I guess Bach is not my favorite, but I like Bach and appreciate Bach. But I definitely think, and it's hard because the thing is, he did so many things I totally understand. I get it. I get the Bach thing, and I like Bach, but it's like, I don't listen to a lot of Bach. And it's like, if I'm going to listen to something in that vein, it's like, if I'm being honest, I'm probably going to listen like Chopin, or I'm going to listen to like, especially Paganini. Man, I had no idea how good Paganini's compositions were. Like, obviously, you know, he's known for being a virtuoso. But, like, I just started listening to, like, these compositions, and it's like, holy moly, this dude's using, like, jazz harmony, you know? It's like he's moving chromatically and, like, using, like, these diminished chords in ways that are just, like, so fresh, even to me now. Like, I don't know. But I feel like it's so hard. I feel like Bach is almost, like, in the middle of overrated, underrated. He is rated. What do you think? What are your thoughts? It's hard.
The music of Bach is so vast and like so ubiquitous. Like, he did so much, but like even with as much as he did, I'm gonna say he is underrated vastly.
Dang.
Today. Like 50 years ago, he might not have been underrated.
And that's the thing, and that's why I hesitate on my answer, because I guess I should have clarified, like, to where it's, I guess he's not overrated as much as he's not my favorite, but I understand his significance of why he's very, very important. And it's like that cannot be understated enough. But very interesting.
Like his melodies, man, like and
yeah.
To me, like Bach was bebop, man.
He really was. Well, and it's like the thing about Bach too is it's almost like he wrote the freaking book. Like Bach came out, I was like, this is how this is supposed to be now.
Yeah, like
it's like he set the standard. I almost feel like Bach is like the man. See, and I'm gonna watch. I'll say more stupid things, but I feel like Bach to me is a lot like a Duke Ellington or something, to where he's just got that expansive library of ideas, and he like pretty much say like he is the standard. Like this is where it starts, or else what are you doing?
Bach is the man, and I think in 2018 he is underrated.
Boom! There you
Next.
are. Well, I got another one at you. I'm curious what you'll say about this. Is what do you think of open string riffs, such as or whatever it is, the Foo Fighters song. See, I can't even remember it. But like like open string, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Specifically for me, overrated, and I'll tell you why. It has to do with my approach to the guitar. I want to be able to play things in all keys, like in all positions, and open strings gets in the way of that for me. So I try my best to like eliminate as many open strings in my playing as I can, just so I can grab things and have them be movable. And again, for me, it's just a personal feel. Your opinion?
Oh man, I'm pretty much right where you are with that, to where it's like we're anti-country players. Like I always love watching videos of country players talk about like anytime you can use an open string, and they want to use all those open strings. But for me, I am also like I always want to move things or have things just be to where I can move them, and it definitely messes with my brain, or like the idea of like I can't move this voicing. I don't know. I definitely like to have voicings I could hold in my whole hand. I'm moving all the notes. I'm touching them. It's definitely beyond that, and like I guess it feels that, and like for me, even though I talked about that open chord I liked a lot, like for me, there's not many open chords or things I like a lot, because I feel like since naturally it's just like a thing that's been done on guitar a lot, like a lot, because the strings are open and they're there, and it makes sense that some people just be like, oh, just use these open strings. Duh. Why would I fret things? And maybe, you know what? They're smarter and they're working less hard. I don't know.
I'm very, very interested in hearing what Marcel has to say about this, because he's probably on the complete, opposite end of the spectrum as us. But we're on the opposite ends of a lot of things, I feel like. But
and the open string thing is such a mindset thing, because the people that do it, it's like they'll slip it in everywhere, and it's like, whoa, did you just play the open string there? It's like anytime any of those open strings is possible to use, they use it. It's like those players fascinate me. It's because it's like it would take me so long to program my brain to like do that.
Yeah. That might be a good thing for me to start working on, incorporating more open strings, because I barely ever do that. And it'd be nice to have that technique at my grasp. But I've got one for you. Overrated, underrated, Slash.
Ooh, Ooh, oh hell, man, you're trying to make me public enemy number one. Now, see, Slash is like, for me, my feelings of Slash are like, because I understand his significance totally. Because I mean, I'm a guitar player, and even though I didn't necessarily grow up with Slash, like I can, for one, his tone's amazing. Like, duh, like Les Paul and the Silver Jubilee, you're not gonna lose. All right, you're just not. And it's hard because it's like, his stuff that's good is fantastic, but I also feel like Slash is someone that's wildly overrated, even though his significance and impact is big. But it's like, I feel like if you look at the body of work he's produced and what he's really done, it's hard because if you compare him to other people, it's like, it's just like a lot of other stuff. But for me personally, Slash is a touch overrated, but at the same time, I do think his classic recordings are amazing and his tone's amazing. And like for the time, I understand that was just like really fresh feeling. But in this day and age, Slash is overrated. There we go. That's what's more accurate. Today, I think Slash is overrated. What do you think?
I haven't listened to much Slash or Guns N' Roses. I've heard Welcome to the Jungle and Sweet Child O' Mine. And I've heard the Velvet Revolver song Fall to Pieces. And I like all those things, but I'm very uninformed on Slash, and I'm just going to say overrated. Don't at me.
And you heard it here first, folks. Now, see, I got one for you, and I'm very interested to hear your reply to this one, and that is the double kick drum. What do you think about the double kick drum?
Oh, wow. Double kick. Overrated, and I'll tell you why.
Ooh!
It takes an enormous amount of foot control and with both feet and keeping the notes even. And it's something that I've heard get very sloppy very quickly. So in most people's hands, or I guess in this case feet, double kick drum, overrated.
See, and you brought up a good thing about the technical part of that. I think that is true. There's something to be said about that, because if I think about it, especially in person, I've definitely heard more sloppy, like, double kick players than, one would like. And I definitely think it's one of those things that you have to really be experienced to use it properly, or else it can... And the evenness of the kicks, I never even thought about that, but yeah, that is really hard to do, to keep those kick notes, like, even feeling. Like, man.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, people.
It's
double kick.
Dangerous.
Don't be using that unless you can back it up.
Yeah, I got one more, and this stems from a Facebook conversation I saw recently. I don't name names here, but Earth, Wind, and Fire, overrated, underrated.
Ooh, I think Earth, Wind, and Fire is, oh man, it's like, okay, now I thought about it. I feel like they're underrated, and I'll tell you why. Because if you go on anything, you look up Earth, Wind, and Fire, look at their top songs, like the popular songs, like they're all good, but you start going into some of those deep cuts, and it's like the arrangements on that stuff is mind-blowing. And some of those albums as a whole piece, it's like they were doing stuff that other funk bands wish they could do. Like, they just took the idea of whatever funk music was and just turned it into their own thing. Because Earth, Wind, and Fire just sounds like Earth, Wind, and Fire. It's like the other funk bands, they all have their sound, but Earth, Wind, and Fire has its very distinct sound that I feel like is difficult to replicate. And I mean, me and you have both played in a band where we played Earth, Wind, and Fire songs. We both know it's hard to accurately portray those songs, even when you have a lot of really good players, because it's such a precise and powerful sound. But I feel like they're underrated, especially because of because I grew up on Earth, Wind, and Fire, but I didn't hear a lot of their albums or even like some deep cuts or songs that, you just wouldn't hear. And once I started listening to it, it was really eye-opening for me how much they were pushing the envelope, I think, especially for a pretty mainstream band. of what funk is. But that's what I think. What do you think about them?
Well, to be honest, this is a softball question for you. This is the softball one.
Fair enough.
But like, I think they're underrated. I don't have much logic or reasoning behind it. I just like their music a lot. So easy. Underrated. Today,
Boom.
especially.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think I have one more, if we could do one more.
Yeah.
Because I especially want to know what you think of this last one. And this last one is sort of scenario dependent, but I guess let's...
Set the scenario for me.
Yeah. Well, I guess like in a perfect world, what do you think of music stands on the stage? You know, like in an ideal scenario, say you're on the stage, and maybe not even you, say just like other people. Like, are you okay with music stands on stage, or do you not ever want to have a music stand?
Music stand, overrated, underrated. I'm gonna say underrated, because if that stand's gonna help you play correctly, please use that stand. I mean, there are ways to set it up so it's not a distraction or in the way. Like, you can have it low. I think you should like do your best to try to memorize all tunes, but like, if a music stand is gonna help you, then use it. I have nothing against that. Like, absolutely, please use it. Especially.
And now as an extension on this, now what do you think of people that won't perform without a music stand? Like, do you think, how would you feel, for example, like overrated, underrated, like, you know, always having a music stand versus...
Always having a music
stand, makes sense.
Versus being able to get by without it. Well,
And I know it's obviously sort of an extreme question, but, you know, I've met a few people that, like, pretty much every time I saw them perform, they had a music stand, no matter if they knew the song, or I presume they would know it by then or not. And I've always been curious, like, what other people think about that, especially, like, in a scenario to where it's, like, I guess maybe I should have phrased this question more specifically. Like, in a scenario in which you don't necessarily need a music stand, it's like a comfort thing, you know? Because, like, or, like, as an audience member, if you go somewhere and you see the whole band or, like, a person in the band, they're, like, really looking at the music stand, does that affect you in any way? Or are you indifferent to it? I guess that's maybe more of where I'm coming from with this question.
I'll set up a couple different scenarios. As an audience member, I am indifferent to music stands. I don't really care. I mean, if I'm going to see, like, a metal band, I don't want to see any music stands.
That'd be really funny. Can you imagine seeing, like, Meshka and they all have music stands and, like, glasses?
But in a band where, you know, I'm in a position of leadership, and we've been playing the same songs for a while, and they're still using a music stand, I'm probably going to take it away. Just as a challenge.
Yeah, buddy.
Just to be a little bit of a jerk. Because I'm all about, like, you know, pushing myself. I try to get off book as soon as possible. But I see the merit in music stands. But, like, if somebody I see clearly has the ability to memorize something and they're still using a music stand, I'm going to lobby hard for getting them to at least trying to play without it.
A quick aside to the music stand thing, I will say, though, what I do like is when people have a music stand for, like, a song. Because then you know that person gives it. Like, when I saw Brian Setzer, he played the Nutcracker Suite, and it was crazy. It was a whole arrangement, you know, of all these different parts of the Nutcracker Suite, and he used music for that. And I was like, yeah, I can understand why. Like, fair enough. You know what? I'm not going to ask you to memorize the entire Nutcracker Suite in this giant arrangement that you do once a year, you know, or you probably put together a specific arrangement just this year. It's like, man, like that. It always impresses me when someone has a piece that it's at that level to where it's like they haven't memorized it, but they still want to play it. And they're like, I got this roadmap and I'm going to do it, even though, like, this is the one that's maybe not as polished as the rest, but it's worth it. Like, I like that. I can dig that.
All right. I think that was a successful first time through this game. I'm gonna come up with more questions for specifically for Marcel and for you in the future, because I hope we have you on again. I'm having a great time. But let's move on to what have you been listening to lately?
Whew. Man, this will be a good moment for people to realize how weird my listenings are, because I feel like I'm always listening to a few things in complete opposite directions. Like, obviously, ever since Alan Holdsworth died, I've pretty much been listening to him nonstop, because I had no idea who he was before he died. And like, man, if you haven't listened to Alan Holdsworth, just start doing it. Just start. But a lot of that, but also like, I'm really getting into Japanese music. Like, really I'm just so mad that I don't speak Japanese, know how to find more Japanese music, because like, a while ago, I literally went on Spotify and went to the top 50 Japan Spotify and just listened to it, and it blew my mind. It just changed my world. Like, their music is so diverse, and the music they're coming out with right now is just nuts. Like, the stuff they're doing in their normal pop music just blows my mind. And so I can't remember the specific group. I feel like such a dummy, but like, definitely like lots of Japanese music, because the way they've been influenced over time and the way they combine influences is very unique to my ears. Like, I just don't hear it happening in other music like it is in Japanese music, especially the fusion of technology in particular with like maybe older ideas of like song structure or harmony and stuff. It's like, it's just such a cool sound. Just that and like Michael Jackson. I pretty much, because Off the Wall and Thriller are like the best dance albums ever. So I'm trying to listen to those a lot and just hone into that dance thing too. But that's just sort of it. Just like crazy fusion jazz, Japanese music, and Michael Jackson.
That's crazy, man. Like,
what are you listening to?
Well, a couple weeks ago, we had an episode called Technique and Anime. And I was talking about how I was listening to like anime intros and outros. So essentially,
yes,
the same thing as
man.
you. But if I were to be honest, this last week I've been doing a lot of work on my lo-fi stuff, and while I've been doing that, I've been listening to things I can listen to alongside of doing music work. So I've been listening to a lot of the Bill Burr podcast and a lot of the Seattle Mariners. So
how the Mariners doing?
They're doing okay, surprisingly okay. Robinson Cano just had an RBI. Mariners are up 3-0 right now, so you might be able to figure out what day this is recording. But they're not terrible yet, so there's still reason to be excited in April, I guess. But moving on, like, we also like to talk about what we've been working on. And this week, like, I've been working like extensively on my lo-fi music. Just I have a bunch of self-imposed deadlines, but I've still been trying to practice, and I've come up with a new warm-up routine, and I will share a tab for this. I have it ready.
Ooh.
And I've been doing 4-note per string groups, and starting on the first fret or the third fret of the low E string, and I run through melodic minor scales. So I start on G melodic minor, and then I move on to the next scale that has a G in it. It is also a melodic minor, so next would be F. And then moving on to E, D, C, B flat, and then A flat.
Nice. How's it? How visually are you starting to really be able to see the patterns really well yet? How does it feel visually? Yeah.
Visually,
so far?
I mean, the way I played those two, you could probably hear I don't have it down very well yet.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to work on the hands thing right now, but I think visually, it's gonna help me being able to see things I can grab in all sorts of different positions, especially using 4 notes per string.
Definitely. That's why I asked. That's because that sounds like a great exercise to do. Like really, 4 note per string stuff really can expand your idea of like where things can go.
Yeah, like I've been using it as a warm up because it's difficult for the hands, but not too difficult or strenuous, and it's definitely a mental exercise for me. So that's what I like in my warm ups. Something kind of hard, kind of not, just to get me started, get me loose, so I'll be able to execute the things I want to execute on the instrument.
Definitely.
And something that's gonna, help my brain a little bit, and that doesn't require 100% brain power. Like I can float by with like 20 or 30%, but I still have to think. So yeah, I've just been trying to do that. First thing I do when I get up in the morning is do that warm up exercise through all 7 different melodic minor scales that contain a G note.
Nice.
But yeah, that's mainly been my practice for the week. What about you? What have you been working on?
Oh man, have I ever been working? I'm always, right now, I'm still very much, I feel like, in the pursuit of working on things that just help me make better sounding notes and a more fluid sound. Because for me, it's like I'm so stubborn. Like, I just want things to sound fluid. And, like, the thing about the alternate picking thing that I should have mentioned earlier, too, is, like, not only am I dedicated to alternate picking, it's like, I call it legato alternate picking. So it doesn't sound all, it sounds like, it's all together, And that's hard to do. Like, you really have to. But, like, still, that's a huge thing for me always. Is just spending time, like, making sure everything I play is legato when I want it to be. And the big thing I've been practicing, though, the biggest thing is combining two-way pick slanting. And oddly enough, like, there's a Stevie Ray Vaughan song called Scuttle Button. And that dude must have been a two-way pick slanter. Because this song, even though it's just like this blues crazy like shuffle thing, it's like and what that requires is like 3 notes picked down, or you change your pick slant and come back. Yeah. So that note is a upstroke almost, but it's on the changed pick slant. So it's like change. So it's like you change your pick slant like 3 or 4 times in there, and it's all like. And obviously I can't do it super well, but what that lick requires is like everything I'm working on, even though it just sounds like a little whatever. Like somehow it's just two-way pick slanting, it's sweeping, it's alternate picking, and it's the hardest thing in the world. But I've just been practicing that at snail's pace, and making sure every shift, because the thing with changing pick slants that I realized for myself was like I was doing them either after I wanted to do them, or I wasn't doing them like clockwork, like making sure like this is where I change the pick slant and like hold it and then do the next move and the next move. And that's helped me a lot too. It's just practicing like clockwork, even though it sounds very mechanical, but like if you can move like a machine, it's not a bad thing to be, have everything be uniform and then mess it up from there or whatever. And so I've just been really practicing stuff like that and just trying to be like clockwork when I pick. So eventually, it can just flow from the wrist. But just a lot of that, really, just combining all the techniques. Clockwork, man. It helps.
Yeah, buddy. That's something I should take a look into. Like seeing how I change my pick slant, because I know you told me I do, and I mean, I really only figured out what a pick slant was like a couple weeks ago, like how it was performed.
And for the audience that we got here, you must know that this man, like I saw him, he had no idea what pick slants are, and he's two-way pick slanting. Like he's doing it. Like he does things that I have had to consciously teach myself, and he just does them without thinking. And it's amazing. It's so amazing. And just God help us all if he becomes conscious of it, because then we're all doomed. We're all out of a job. Put your guitars away. Stay at home.
Oh man.
But seriously, I love it. It's so interesting, man. I keep talking about technique, but it's never endingly interesting to me because everyone sort of finds their own little ways around, and it's like naturally you figured out how to two-way pick slant a bit for sure. It's just amazing.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the week. Miles, big thanks to you for coming on and guest hosting with me. Do you have anything you'd like to promote?
No, man. Just keep your eyes out for my name, Miles Harris. You'll see it eventually. It'll be there.
Yeah, and you'll hear about it here for sure. Again, Marcel is at Merle Fest this week, and we'll be really happy to have him back next week. You can find him. He's got a big long outro of different things, but I'm sure you can find it all at lessonswithmarcel.com. And I'm Lyman Lipke from lymanlipke.com. And you can find everything you need to know about me from there. But again, big thanks to Miles Harris for coming on this week. And we appreciate your listening. So thank you so much. Take care. See you next week.